Hi, welcome everyone to the Plein Air Easton Podcast, celebrating its 20th year, 2024. We are at the headquarters in Easton, Maryland, running July 12th through July 21st this year. This is the first day of the work week of the exhibit being open, the Plein Air Easton headquarters. I'm Tim Wagon. I'm here with Jess Bellis.
Hi, I want to say this is a live Plein Air Easton podcast. It's not just any podcast; it's one that's coming to you live from the Armory.
I did not know that.
Well, it's live right now.
It's
live recorded. You could hear drills in the background.
No editing.
Wait, you could hear laughter. Come on, laughter. Oh, there's so much laughter in here. It's fantastic. For an early Monday morning, we're killing it.
We had 0 yesterday. We've got 2 today. And
zero laughter?
No, 0 customers. If we can get 10 by the end of the week for the podcast, because I got to tell you, the demos that they did, like that draw huge attendance. The podcast is lacking a little bit. If we can get 10 people here by Thursday, we're going to call that a success this week. But really, you don't see a podcast. We were talking about that. You just need to hear it.
No, but maybe when they listen to it, like on their Apple podcast, they'll really feel a sense of missing out. Like they really missed out not seeing the laughter and the drilling and the
great air
bustling crowds.
The artwork.
It's inspirational in here.
The great AC. It's very inspirational in here. By the end of this week, there will be close to 600 paintings freshly painted in the headquarters. So if you're listening close, anywhere in Maryland, say Delaware, this is really one of the best places you could be for art in the country, in my mind. It's Plein Air Easton 2024. Jess, welcome back.
Yes.
We are here with guest. You want to introduce her?
Lisa, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Is this on?
It sure is. We can hear you.
Perfect.
Say your last name so I don't mess it up.
My name's Lisa Egeli.
That's what I thought it was.
Yes.
But then I was like, I could screw it up right
Egeli.
out of the gate.
Well, Siri calls me Egeli.
That's kind of how maybe I would want to call you that too.
Yeah.
But I knew it wasn't that.
I'm thinking about changing it just for the digital age.
Yes, that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Lisa,
whatever AI says.
Yeah.
I think that you actually painted my favorite quick draw painting of all time.
Ooh.
And I could end up with some real egg on my face. But a long time ago, did you happen to paint a unique quick draw painting at Plein Air Easton?
I did, actually.
Can you explain to everybody who is listening and watching what you did at Quick Draw? That was early on, because you were sort of a part of Plein Air Easton almost from the jump, right?
I think it was the second year. My first year doing it was the second year. I waited till everyone said it was really cool, and then I decided to submit and participate. But yes, it was one of the hotter years. I think I painted in the shade of a small sapling. And yes, I put cracked an egg in an iron skillet. And sure enough, during the course of the quick draw, it did fry.
It did. She fried an egg.
That's I love that
on
painting.
the street at the quick draw.
Yes.
What year was that again?
And painted it. Early on, but I can see.
I remember the painting specifically.
My dear friend, Susan Bryce purchased it and it hung in her kitchen for many years, and it was a great little kitchen painting too.
Yeah.
And it kind of changed my perspective even on quick draw, because I think a lot of people think about landscapes or architecture or but you did really paint it from life right there at the Plein Air Easton quick draw.
Yeah, I mean, part of it for me, honestly, was a cop-out on painting, architecture and, something in the street and people and things like that. And I had, I think a couple years before that, I had painted some steamed crabs, also trying to avoid having to paint buildings or street scenes or things like that. But I just thought, what is more Maryland in July than eating steamed crabs? So I just threw some crabs on some newspaper and painted those. And so, yes, the egg just kind of continued that tradition.
Can I ask a question about that? If you'd have taken crabs or a fried egg in a pan and painted them in a studio versus painting them outside like you did on that Saturday, how would the painting be different?
A little less fire behind it, maybe, just
literally.
Yes.
Yeah, right,
well, there is the whole. I mean, this is the thing
light's
with
hitting
Plein
it, right?
Air,
You're painting the light, right?
It's the immersion in your environment and your surroundings that sort of goes into it's part of the ingredient. It's an ingredient that goes into the creation of the painting. So I could paint steam crabs in the studio, and yes, the light would be consistent, and I could control it very carefully, but the energy behind it wouldn't be the same as it is when you're like on the street in a quick draw, painting it from life with the light changing and the sun baking down and all that sort of thing.
Doubling the white of the egg on the street.
Well,
it
yes,
changed, right? It went
because-
from a white to a yellow
yeah,
when it
because
bubbled up,
starting
right?
out,
Or brown
the
in
egg
there.
was raw, so I used that time to paint everything but the egg. But yes, I thought I didn't do a test run, so I was like,
You didn't know if it was
I
going to
wonder if this is actually going to cook. What if it just stays like a gelatinous little ball on the?
It wouldn't have been as
in the
compelling a
pan.
painting, I don't think. But again, that to me
What would it
will,
have been called?
That to me will always be my number one favorite quick draw painting. It was fantastically creative. It totally had all the energy of the moment in it, I think. And I think that you're right. You really sort of captured that.
And I think that's
Yeah.
really cool. That's because we, while we're not doing it in a big way, we are like kind of nostalgically as a staff going back over like 20 years. And every time something like that comes up, or there was something happened at the Meet the Artist party, or it's just a reminder of like a lot of good memories that have gone on for the last 20 years.
Yeah, it's true. There's a lot of creative process happening, and for artists out in the world painting, stuff happens, and it's unique, and it's like of the moment, and that's part of what's so great about creating a body of work this way.
I really feel like you can feel that energy in the paintings
Yeah,
too. Like,
yeah,
and I'm
absolutely.
definitely feeling the heat this year.
Yeah,
We're gonna see it. We're gonna see it.
Everything looks hot.
Lisa, we jumped right into Plein Air Easton because I did that with my favorite Plein Air Easton quick draw painting. But let's back it up and introduce yourself to the audience here and the audience listening online. You brought up Maryland. You've got some Maryland roots, yes?
I have only Maryland.
I was gonna say you have deep familial
I do.
Maryland roots.
Yes.
So why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I was born and grew up in St. Mary's County on the other shore,
Me too.
southern western Maryland. Everybody says, "Oh, Eastern Shore." I'm like, no. There is a southern Maryland that's not on the Eastern Shore.
I was born and raised there too.
Yeah, where?
Leonardtown.
Leonardtown.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where were you?
Do we know each other?
Maybe we probably do. We'll figure that. Where were you? Where were you? Where
Throughout
were you
this podcast, we will connect the past.
Mom?
Lisa,
Brother.
Right. Yeah, brother. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Thanks.
Sorry about that.
Thanks, son.
Daughter. Anyway, where were you?
Yeah, so I grew up in St. Mary's County, out in the country on the St. Mary's River, and
Okay. Yeah.
didn't stray very far until later in life.
Down by the
But,
college?
right
Yeah,
across the river,
yeah.
actually, from the college.
A lot of kids really check out that college because of the water and how beautiful it is down there.
Yeah, it's a beautiful setting. We moved there when I was 2, and my childhood was spent renovating an old farmhouse. I mean, growing up there with my dad and mom and brother. My brother's 2 years younger than I am, and yeah, it was a good country life, and my dad's an
Ridge.
artist, so he would get up in the morning and go out to the studio to work. So that's kind of where I come from.
and art is kind of in your DNA, right?
It is.
And was it baked into your family's culture as well? Did you feel pressure? Like, so you have a unique story. I think some people are like, oh, my dad was a doctor and I had to become a doctor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did it feel that way, or was it just kind of always surrounding you?
Yeah, it was just like it was the most normal thing in the world for me for someone to be a professional artist. So my parents were never made me feel like it was expected of me, but I always wanted to be like my dad and do what he did, and so it was more like, you can do this if you want, but just do it really well and love it. My dad always emphasized that you have to love what you're doing in order to do well at it. So.
Did you start painting from an early age? Did your family paint together? Was there art
No.
in your? I mean, there was art in your house, but like it's different when it's your dad's full-time gig, right?
Right.
Like he's not necessarily. I think if it was like a hobby, then it's more like maybe he's doing it around the kitchen table. But if he's coming home from work, that's a little bit different, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not doing a good job of setting the stage for kind of what it was like, but it's, you know, my dad's parents were both artists. My grandfather Bjorn came from Norway. He left there when he was like 15 when his dad died. He sailed.
So actually, Lisa and I are long lost cousins.
The Norwegian St. Mary's County connection.
Right.
You're Norwegian,
That's
huh?
the truth. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, my mom immigrated here when she was 2.
Oh,
So yeah, we're all related. You
Oh,
and Lisa and I.
wow.
That's what we just found out.
It's just a
yeah.
common thread from St. Mary's County to Norway.
Right.
To
It's very
Easton.
common. This
The
is very
Hardigan.
common.
Yeah.
The Hardigan.
Yeah.
So let's go back to this. When your dad said that, he said, whatever you do, love it. But he said, but do it well.
Yes.
How did you go about doing it? Saying that I'm going to go do this well.
Well, I have to say, if you are trying to be like a 4th generation family artist, professional artist, you better do it well. There's like a lot on the line.
Yeah,
Well-
I think there's 2 things. There's the pressure, but there's the support. You have the support. You know, you have the support in terms of understanding what it's like, what it means. You have the support in terms of we know how this goes. We believe in you. A lot of people have to overcome this obstacle of you'll never make a living doing that.
Right.
You can never do it. You know, this negativity. I didn't have that. So I had the support, but then the pressure, which was mostly brought on by myself, but it was the comparison with, you know, what's the standard? You know, where's the bar? And I always just felt that the bar was really high. And so I was always really hard on myself about, like, if you're going to do this, you better do it well. And that's always, I think those 2 things are kind of always with you. You don't, like, leave those expectations behind.
So where did that take you in your search to doing it well? Where did you find good study and that sort of thing? How did you go about that?
Well, I went away I did a couple of years in college. I really thought I could get through all 4 years of college and then pursue art afterwards, art study. But 2 years of college, and then I went to the American Academy of Art in Chicago, and I studied there for a couple of years and graduated from
Where
there.
she also hung out with my family because that's where they immigrated to from Norway. So we're just, every time we mention a space or time, we're going to connect
It's all
each
about
other.
overlaps.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah,
Overlaps.
overlaps.
Yes.
The layers of your story.
Yes. Yes, Tim, did you ever go through the drive-through at Duke's?
Dukes. Yeah. Oh
Duke's,
God, I
yes.
love Dukes.
Okay.
You remember Dukes? Yeah. I'll talk to you. I was just down there, like.
It's a coffee place now.
Oh, it's a happening
really
spot.
cool.
I mean, it's really pretty crazy. Dukes, for you guys, were kind of. I always hate like inside things. Literally, I would go down to the hill to school, and you would pass Dukes in Leonardtown, and there would be 3 guys out there with their leg kicked up against the wall, smoking a cigarette, drinking a beer at like 7:30 in the morning. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what it was like.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was a drive-through liquor store.
how did the county influence your art?
Just a lot of nature and country, you know, just a lot of nature, I'd say. And because we were relatively remote, I always envied all those other kids that got to play with each other after school because I didn't see other kids.
Yeah, well, you were
after
out there.
school.
You were
we
along
were
the
out
river.
in the
Yeah,
country.
yeah,
So
sure.
we're like running
it's
around.
still rural down there.
You know, finding box turtles and, you know.
I grew up in St. Clement Shores, which is a water
yeah.
area,
Yeah.
also too, but, you know, with very moderate housing. But anyway,
Let's go back to Chicago.
yeah.
Okay, Chicago. Actually, some other Plein Air Easton artists over the years went there.
Yep.
Scott Powers. Did Ken do? I think Ken DeWard maybe.
I think
Not
that might be
sure.
true. Yes, yes.
So yeah, so I loved it. I lived right in downtown. I studied. I took classes, and I even took some extra part-time classes. I waited tables. It was so great because I got to learn from a lot of other artists that weren't in my family,
Right.
which is a really great thing.
Yeah, differences, different.
Yeah, just different approaches.
Well, and I would think trying to find your own style and your own perspective. I mean,
yes.
again, it goes back to that comparison thing that you were making. That's not just in terms of like setting a bar or reaching. It is making sure that you're speaking with your own voice.
Yes, and that's the hardest thing. You know,
Yeah.
when you come from generations of tradition, it's finding what do I have to say that
And how connected did you ever feel like, sometimes it's like if people's parents swing politically left, they all of a sudden swing politically right, just to like, it's
Right.
like my kids hate the kind of music I listen to, just like I hate, did you ever like feel a sense of art rebellion, or
I
was
rebel?
it about culture and,
Well, the phrase is,
connection?
I think, is if you're not a rebel when you're 20, you've got no heart. If you're still a rebel when you're 40, you've got no brain.
Gosh, I don't even know that I've ever heard that.
I read it somewhere, I'm sure.
Sage
Did you
advice.
Was there art rebellion or no?
No, not really for me. I think the biggest, no, I mean, I've never been that big of a rebel. It's more like my rebellion was I wanted to travel. I wanted to, try different, sketch in different places and paint in different places. Rebellion, I don't really know. I mean, yeah. No, I mean, and it's all proportionate, right? Rebellion can be something really radical, it can be.
Did you paint different stuff in Chicago, like beyond landscape, and like get into different figures and sculpture or whatever? What kind of art were you that affected you where you are? Or you're always drawing the same, painting the sort of outdoors?
No, I mean I was pretty much just my purpose there was to study and learn the fundamentals. I wanted to learn design and figure and color, and I wanted to learn all those things. Chicago itself was a big influence on me because there's a lot more contemporary art there.
Right.
The architecture is a huge influence. It's a huge part of just the spirit of the city, and I loved that. My friends loved abstract and very modern art that just made me think, wow, okay, well, maybe I should take a second look at this art that everybody in my family disdains.
has been poo-pooing.
There's the rebel. There's the
that.
rebel. There's
the
a little bit of
rebel.
rebellion right there.
No, but it did have a big influence on me. I'm a big tent kind of art appreciator. So I guess that was the biggest. Yeah, Chicago itself was a huge influence in terms of considering the whole world more artistically than just a particular traditional style of approaching things.
Seeing everything through a new lens.
Yeah, and just sort of trying everything. It's like going through the buffet and trying everything instead of just like picking one thing and having that all the time.
We're going to take a break for just a second here. I'm going to ask one more question before we go to this break. And it's, I was going to ask this regardless of whether I knew you were from St. Mary's County or not. And the question is basically like, where did you grow up? And how has it stuck with you? The whatever you took from St. Mary's County into the world. What grounded you in that?
I think I've mentioned nature before, but that I can't emphasize that enough. It's nature. It's being out in the world. I just loved being out, crabbing along the shoreline early in the morning, just hanging out in the woods, watching what was happening. And I think how that's influenced me is I'm a big believer in absorbing what's around you and connecting with what you're trying to capture in order to capture it. You don't just spend all your time painting. You spend some time observing and thinking about and feeling the place or or experiencing the person, conversing with them. All those things are so important to do in order to create the work. So yes, it's the stillness, it's the taking the time to notice subtlety, to really just be really conscious.
And that comes through in the way you mix your paint and your
I hope so.
Yeah, that's what
I don't know if it does, but I hope so.
I'm gonna
a lot of thinking.
I'll fangirl for a second and say I feel like I could have answered that question for her. I've known her artwork for a really long time, from the beginning, and I was thinking she's gonna say nature. That is what I actually.
Well, it's because you're from Norway, though. Probably.
It's the Norwegian connection
yeah.
that she sent it right over to me.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's really. I think that there is a obvious appreciation and love of place, that especially at the outdoors, that I think really comes across in her artwork.
Yeah, well, definitely. I guess if you're listening to the podcast now, live or even taped, you can go to Lisa's website. She's online. It's Egeli, for last name, and look at the paintings while we're discussing this. That's always a nice thing to do. We're going to take a break here in a second. Jess, I want to just remind people about the headquarters here and what we're doing here all week and what's going on with Plein Air Easton.
Really try to gin up the FOMO if they're listening.
I got to tell you, this is called the series of alumni recordings, sessions, whatever. And I would say it should be sponsored by the Meet the Artist Party, because that Meet the Artist Party this year was incredible. It was incredible every year. If you are interested in listening out there, check out the Meet the Artist Party on Plein Air Easton. Plein Air Easton headquarters are going to be open 10 to 3, except for Thursday we close. We open back up Saturday and Sunday. We've got the quick draw and the collector's party coming up this weekend.
Absolutely, and there's still a handful of collector's party tickets available, so that's a must-do.
If you're close, that's a great time.
Absolutely, it's a great time. It's a great time.
There's such a uniqueness about this festival that I am just going to talk about in the 20th year like a cicada, and I'll never talk about it again. But like, it is really special events. If you're close in Maryland, listening anywhere, hop online, and I guarantee you will enjoy what you end up coming to.
And Tim, I have to say the buzz about the artwork is really strong too. I mean, the Meet the Artist paintings, the sales were incredibly brisk, and there was a great collective body of work.
There were so many people in Oxford last night.
I know,
it was unbelievable.
Oxford was really packed, and there are so many great paintings that were produced in Oxford yesterday that I know are going to make their way into the Armory. So if you are a lover of Oxford at all, this is definitely the place to be this week.
The exhibit changes here every day, so there's always something new to see if you want to make return of visits.
Paintings walking in the door as we record live here.
About 600.
Look, it's Scott. He's walking in with a painting right
Yeah,
now.
There's a guy coming with a painting right now. We'll be right back. This is a Plein Air Easton podcast from the Plein Air Easton Festival and Competition 2024. We'll be right back.
time for laundry.
Hi, welcome back, everyone, to the Plein Air Easton Podcast.
The live Plein Air Easton
right.
Podcast.
The live Plein Air Easton Podcast, coming to you live from the Plein Air Easton headquarters.
We are all alive.
Yes.
Thank
yes,
God.
That's right.
The other day I was kind of wondering.
We've established that. We are alive. That's good. We're back at Plein Air Easton with Lisa Egeli, painter, alumni painter here. This is the alumni series of alumni from the Avalon
That makes it sound like I graduated.
That's why we did it. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You're
But I'm gonna
knowledgeable.
say,
You
like,
have the knowledge.
I think that is true. I think in some ways you have graduated, and it's not to say that you can't go back to school.
Yes, I could. That's the thing.
You can
I
go back
was-
to school all the
yesterday I
time.
was thinking I missed this. Maybe
But
I should come back.
Yeah, but I do
Oh, really?
think I do think that there is a sense in a lot of plein air painters' careers where they jump in and do a lot of competitions. They're on the competition circuit, and then some. I've seen an evolution out of the competition circuit as well. Is that something that you feel like happens in
Yeah.
in your career?
Yeah, I guess for me what happened was I just got to a point where I wanted to shift gears. I wanted a bit. So it's not saying, okay, I'm moving on. I'm not going to do this again. I'm going to do something else. It's more of just giving in to a feeling of wanting to take more time with paintings, and it's there's so much to learn and experience from doing an event like this, but there's also a time then to take it back for me to take it back to the studio and spend more time, develop pieces more carefully, think more, work in with a longer view, really, instead of a 2-hour or 6-hour, 8-hour view. Think more in days and weeks. In the studio, I like to, rotate through which pieces I'm working on, so that I'm maybe looking at them and thinking about what I'm going to do, and I might think about it for a much longer time until I'm ready to work on it or to take it in a different direction, things like that.
How many pieces do you usually have going in your studio at one time? Like, what's an average?
It depends, but a half dozen maybe. Is probably a good realistic number.
And then some that are on the back burner that
There's
come out.
some that are on the back, and there's some, in recent years where I've just pulled something off the wall that I signed and decided to rework it, because you can do that. And if I look at it and I think, what would make that a lot better, and I'll just do it.
Yeah, I mean, I was imagining a desk, kind of like with different projects on it or whatever, for
Right.
pieces of paper or whatever,
Yeah.
but it's just paintings, and you're just like, yeah, that's really interesting. And awesome to hear.
Let's talk about your studio approach. And do you tend to have a lot of reference photographs? How much is it? How much is from your mind or from research? Like, talk to me about. I mean, I think we heard a lot about your process and thought about how you even planned the quick draw, and executing an outdoor composition is different than maybe sitting in your studio and saying, okay, I'm going to spend the next year really thinking about this piece.
Right. In the studio, I tend to develop them more gradually, and it tends to be ideas that get stuck in my head or things that have a really strong emotional pull for me.
Can you give an example?
I'm trying to think of which particular ones. Like a number of years ago, I did a residency in Cape Cod, and I did a lot of plein air painting there for a couple of weeks. I was in one of the dune shacks out,
Yes.
out in the dunes, and I did a bunch of painting there. But I had that same urge to spend more time. So when I got back to the studio, there were a couple of views that I thought this really needs to be bigger, more
And these are
long-term.
views that are etched in your head, or they
Yeah.
are sketches from a sketchbook, or like
They're
quick
both.
plein airs you've
So,
done. Like,
yeah, so what I'll do is I'll have everything from the sketches I did there on location, photographs that I did there, that I took there, and then just the imprint it made on me in terms of like what I loved about it. Like I referenced during my demo, the being really in touch with the idea behind the origins of a painting. Like what's the point of it? What's the idea behind it? What's the motivation for that painting? What's the feeling of it? And so that you have to stay in touch with that in order to have the painting succeed. And so in this one, it was the light, it was the raking light, it was the receding dunes, it was the shapes, the way they folded into one another. The dunes had this like figurative quality to them. So I wanted to capture more of that feeling. And I wanted to do it in a way that wasn't just an immediate plein air type thing, but had the feeling. I mean, plein air, you get so much feeling that you don't get otherwise, but that's what I'm always trying to do, is get some of the immediacy that you get from that in the larger studio painting, but with a more fully developed idea. It's like, I often compare it to like a novel versus a short story. You know, short stories can be amazing and brilliant, and sometimes though you want to tell the whole, even more of a story.
Yeah, it's wonderful. That would be a large departure from doing it in, say, 2 hours, which is
right.
what the Plein Air Easton Plein Air is about.
But it's like, I think that's in some ways how a residency or spending a lot of time in a place sketching and getting to know it, it's kind of like you're building an outline for your studio painting. Like, where I'm going to take it back to writing. You know, you've got this short story in your head, but now it's about getting to know the characters, and it's bringing all of those reference tools back into place.
Yeah.
And I guess one of the tools is your imagination in your brain, because that's what you're using because the flat images that you have taken on your phone, or some of your quick sketches as a reminder, are not necessarily going to bring you the feeling of the dunes, like a figure.
Is the picture a reminder, and then you think is that because like I'm being like totally over whatever here, but like your first stroke, is it like, oh, let me look at the picture, oh, there's the dot goes there, or is it like, I remember, here I go, or how does that work?
No, usually I'll do if I'm not working straight off of a plein air sketch or painting, I will do a painting, even if I'm starting with the photo. So photos are great for just the like technical information of like, what were the shapes, or what were the relationships between the values, the general feeling of it, things like that. The drawing, the more technical side of it, the structural piece of a scene. But I'll do a I'll do a color sketch, small, maybe 5x7, 8x10, something like that. And when I have one that has the feeling that I want, then that is like right there next to my easel the whole time as my guidepost.
That's your touchstone.
That's it. That's what I'm going for.
Cool.
And so if the painting starts to go off the rails in some other way, or feel too noodled out or heartless in some way, then I'll just like soulless. I'll get back to the sketch and I'll say, okay, this is what you wanted.
So we've talked a lot about your love of nature, but I certainly know that you do a lot of portraits as well.
I do.
Talk to me about that process and why you like it.
Well, I guess part of it I can attribute to just a family tradition.
Right.
Because
this is you
funny.
not rebelling.
As much as you...
No rebelling here.
Right. Again, she's over 40, so it's just like, makes sense.
No, as much as I there was a time when when I was a kid, I thought I was only ever going to paint birds of prey. Like, I had that in my head at one point when I was a teenager. I'm going to be an artist of birds of prey. I love like Louis Fuertes, and I wanted to paint just like him. But but I do love painting and working with people. When I'm painting nature, I love to be by myself. You'll notice that most of my landscape paintings and seascape paintings, there are rarely people in them, because I want the place all to myself. I want to be alone there. I'm very introverted. And that's where I draw my strength and my energy. But people are, I guess I started down this path because of the family tradition of doing portraits. I knew how to do it. I was like, I can figure out how to do this. It's very, very hard. It's super challenging, but I can do this, and I can support myself as an artist, importantly. And So that's probably why I got started on it. But what keeps me painting portraits is that the people are fascinating. And I get to be a part of honoring people doing amazing work. I mean, and I love that. It's like I feel like I get to touch greatness by painting people and capturing people.
So let's talk about that process. Does it mirror the studio work where you're spending time with the person?
Yeah, it's both. I'll take photos. I'll sketch from life. I'll, work from life. I like to have 2-hour sittings with my subject, and 3, 4, 5 sittings with them. It's a similar process. I start with taking photos and doing a charcoal sketch. I do an oil sketch of what the painting's going to look like, and it's bringing the canvas back and forth between my studio and meeting with the client and having sittings from life. So it's drawing on that experience of being with the person, observing them, talking to them, learning about them, and just seeing what creates their presence. Trying to capture that, which it's really hard.
I was going to say, how much of that is observed and how much of that is based on hanging out and talking? Maybe it depends on the person.
Yeah, it's all about observing and experiencing them, but it's the same thing as like being in a particular environment or particular setting. You're you're experiencing what it's like to be there with them, and it's kind of an intangible, I think.
So you really get to know the person really, really well.
Yeah, so you get to know them. I mean, hopefully. Some people are maybe more guarded than others. And sometimes, unfortunately, I have to someone who's passed away, only work from existing photographs. Then you try to talk to family members and people who knew them to create a sense of that person. But yeah, it's all about kind of filtering through the artist, an idea, a visual tribute to someone.
Have you ever had a portrait that you just felt like you couldn't nail down?
Some are more challenging than others, but I tend to not let them out of the studio.
Got it. Yeah.
I was wondering what that was like. Like if you spent all this time. That's why I asked the question. Like you get to know the person, you spend all this time with them, and then you show them the painting, and they say,
"He's like, can I use a different filter?"
Whatever. I don't know if that's ever happened. That happened a couple of years ago. A painter here, painted someone, and they ended up not liking it, and it turned into a situation where then the person had to bought it, and said, "What should I do?" And she ended up trading in for another painting. As you go back and tell the painter, with the portraits, is there? It seems
the process is probably so long and iterative.
But no, this is different. These are commissioned portraits.
So what does that mean? You take.
That means
you don't put a stroke down till it's like you're 100% sure, and everything's 100% sure.
It's a collaborative.
It's not a sketch.
It's a collaborative piece of art.
They tell you how it's going.
It's a piece of art, but it's also a commissioned. It's also commissioned and done for a client.
She's back to it's back to her statement about purpose. What is the painting for? Like all these portraits are like she's not just like, "Oh, Tim, I kind of like your vibe. I think I want to paint you." Yeah. I think that it's about
that's also a portrait, but
agreed, that's not what your work is.
That's not my thing.
No, so you're doing like the portraits that hang over the fireplace and things like that. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, or boardrooms or
boardrooms.
Right.
Yeah.
This is like you're being on. They're naming the wagon wing of the hospital after you, and there better be a good painting of you in the lobby. So she needs to make sure that it pleases all of the stakeholders and that it looks enough like you.
Just take out the acne marks if you don't mind.
Part of what happens,
filter. She wants a different filter.
Part of what happens is you're connecting with that person and trying to do that on their terms. And then capture them.
But when you say it's collaborative, you're looking at the painting as you go and that type of thing? Okay, gotcha.
I mean, there's no surprise. There's no we get to the end of the process and I unveil it and they're like, oh my, I didn't know that's what you were doing.
Right.
But no, it's art, but it's a commissioned tribute. Its job is to honor somebody. There's another, it's also portraiture to just say, I love your vibe and I want to paint you. and paint that person.
Okay, gotcha.
And maybe the purpose behind that is different. It's because this is an interesting looking person, or they have an interesting background, and it's being done to fulfill a different idea.
Right.
It's all there. It's all portraiture. There's so many different kinds. But for the purpose of what we're talking about today, what I do is commissioned portraits.
Right.
To honor, and some of them are kids, some of them are adults, some of them are people we've lost, some of them are people who have done great things, some of them are people who have just lived good lives, or, it's all different things. For me, it's a way to connect with people and to honor them with a painting. People care about places, they care about nature, they care about people, and creating artwork around that is a way of honoring all those things. We don't paint things that we don't care about.
Right.
Really. I mean, at least I don't.
And I feel like when you paint things, it inspires others to care about it too. It is how, back to nature, it is how art is a tool for preservation.
Yes.
Once you start, it is how I think the Plein Air Easton has changed people's impression of the local landscape. You're seeing it through an artist's lens. You're being reminded of its beauty or its scarcity or its the fleeting light. You're appreciating it differently. And again, whether that's a person or a place, art is a tool to elevate that.
Yes, great art changes the way we look at the world. Sometimes it's a more activist thing. It's more of pointing out terrible things that have happened, or great things that have happened, or things that we've overlooked, or people that have been overlooked. It's all these different things, but either way, it's a way of holding things up and in the light, making people pay attention to them.
Right.
I think.
Yeah, I think you learn so much and enjoy so much on this podcast because of talking about things like that. That's very important. And the essence of, I guess, what we're really part of what we're about this week anyway, is, and it's what, go ahead. It's what is really the whole artistic sense that comes into town, as I think you mentioned before. That whole vibe that you kind of just described is a whole group of people that are kind of doing the same, or trying to get into the same sort of space with each other, and that's what makes these things so special when we talk about the parties and things like that.
I kind of feel like you've already answered this question, but it's one I always like to ask. Talk to me about if you've ever experienced a real creative block and what kinds of things you do when that happens. You already sort of talked about how you can shuffle to a new painting, but have you ever just found yourself in a place where you're like, I just can't? And then what do you do?
Yeah, no, anyone who's, anyone kind of runs into a place where you feel like you don't have the focus for something in particular, or I'm a big believer in kind of the whole life type of art. In other words, if I'm an artist and all I'm ever doing is standing in front of my easel, then what exactly am I painting? Who am I? What is my life? What is my experience that I'm bringing to this? I think, and part of this might also be the family tradition. My grandfather built boats, built a lot of things. He was a farmer. He did all these different things. I said to my dad, how did he have time to paint all these portraits? He said, well, he worked very quickly. And so he would paint, and then he would go build a boat, or, I don't know, find a cow and milk it or something. But for my, and same thing for my dad, life wasn't only about just generating the painting. And so I believe if I get stuck, then I'm going to go sailing, or I'm going to travel. I love travel. I'm passionate about travel. I've traveled all over the world. And
what is it about travel?
It's discovery, it's excitement, it's going into the unknown. I find it inspiring. I find it empowering. When I don't remember how old I was, 19 or 20. Maybe I was a little older than that, 20. anyway, I traveled around the world for about 9 months, backpacking and sketching, and I had stacks of sketchbooks. And for me, it was confronting fears of going to places I didn't know or speak the language or understand anything about. It was about discovery. It was about empowerment. It was about just learning if I wanted to create art. While I was doing that, I sketched the whole time. I found a real passion for painting.
And you'll get stuck now and travel somewhere,
So
and that gets you going again.
Yeah, I love traveling. And
Say,
and part of
Lisa,
what
get out of your own
happens-
skin. Get out of your own place.
Yeah,
like,
just
go.
or go someplace, and it doesn't have to be exotic travel. It can be any travel. But what happens is then you start to notice the world around you, and it heightens your attention and your focus. And then when you get back to the studio or back in front of your easel, then you have this experience, this like ideas. It's sort of like if you haven't seen a friend in a while and you have so much to catch up on. It's like, oh my gosh, let me tell you the life I've been living.
Right.
It's kind of, you get back in front of the easel and you're like, let me put all these ideas and experience and excitement and energy and fear and whatever else into my art. And but yeah, sometimes you feel tapped out of that and you're like, I got nothing. And so you got to go do something else.
We are speaking with Lisa Egeli at the Plein Air Easton headquarters.
Live at the Plein Air Easton headquarters.
Live at the Plein Air Easton headquarters in Easton, Maryland, celebrating 20 years in 2024 of Plein Air Easton. Lisa, that was just wonderful insight and great talking. We're going to switch gears now a little bit. We've got about 10 minutes left, I think. You can always take it back to what you were doing before.
I know.
We're going to start with this question. We're going to start with this question.
All right, let's take it back to Plein Air Easton. What is some advice you'd give to, because you have done a lot of competitions over time, and you've certainly been to Easton. What's some advice you'd give to artists as they are on the competition circuit, as they are like feeling the pressure of, because again, this is, to talk about a heightened environment, this is a place where you are jumping into an experience that is not the same as a Saturday morning paint out with your friends.
Yeah, no.
But you also said 20 minutes ago that you actually thought with doing this again, you actually wanted to do it again. You were thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think for me, the biggest challenge for me was staying focused on doing my thing in a competition setting. Forget it's a competition. Show up somewhere, find your inspiration, and create your art. And I think that's the thing I have to remind myself when I'm doing an event. Just like, don't get distracted by all these other amazing artists that are here. Don't get distracted by, those things that look like they should be painted. Focus on, what moves you, and then create some great art from what moves you in this setting. And I would also say a big challenge is getting to know the place, get a sense of it. You don't want to just be the butterfly that flits in and skims the surface and then flits out. There's a lot of depth, and I think a lot of inspiration to be found by really getting to know a place.
It's wonderful.
Back to just bringing it back to advice. It is one thing that we really try to bring home to our competing artists is, while you're here, we only require you to paint 3 paintings. You have to paint 2 competition paintings and 1 small painting, Sunday painting. And I actually had this conversation with another competition artist at the Meet the Artist dinner, where she was like, I just feel so grounded in that orientation. So like when I just have to keep reminding myself, all I have to do is paint 3 paintings this week. And so I could do more, other things could happen, but like my focus needs to be on, staying grounded, and I can paint 3 paintings in 10 days. Like, I can do that. And that is a really important, I think that is different than some other festivals that we continue to emphasize that.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely, partially because it's so hot.
Really, pace yourself, guys. Pace
Yes.
yourselves.
But
Do you want to ask her some exciting rapid fire questions? Is that where your head
you got to
is?
have one rapid fire, right? Well, yeah, we were going to make a little segue, and then we
tricky.
segued finally into it as we're going right now, swimmingly. What is the best sandwich?
Oh. I don't know. Reuben.
Sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise.
Morning person.
No hesitation there.
Sunrise. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, down the St. Mary's River, you got used to those pretty sunrises, I'm sure. Yeah.
Indeed.
Well, I have a lot. I won't hold you up, but I do want to say some things about the St. Mary's County. I have a lot of
They're
memories.
going to have a separate podcast
in
about
that
St.
area
Mary's
down
County.
St. Mary's River.
It's going to go on the St. Mary's Neighbors
where
Facebook page.
where
or
I
something.
slept one night at the end of the Governor's Cup. Terrible. Terrible.
Okay.
It was not good. It was. I raced
Any
in that
Governor's
race.
Cup story has to be questionable.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I want to ask this question. I haven't exactly figured out how to pose it yet. And the first sentence, I don't want to come off as sort of flip. The world is a very conflicted place. Now I would say the world, at least like what I watch on TV, it's very conflicted out there or whatever. And the question is it's taking something in like this festival. If you would never consider even going to something like this at this time, when you get the vibe at the events and celebrating the art and just the whole, you can't. It's such a rare thing that kind of fills you up a little bit. Mm-hmm. What would you say to people listening who are out there who are, this is really people who are not doing it, going to take in art, whatever it is, at this time in the country right now, like what that would do, at least temporarily, for like how good that would be for somebody to do?
I just think it's so uplifting to be around artists who are creating, to see their creations.
But in this time right now, though.
Well, because this is, I mentioned that just because it's a common human experience to create, to admire beauty, to admire skill, to admire passion, we're all living on this planet Earth, and that's where this artwork was created. And I do think it's a commonality. I think that there's nothing divisive in this exhibit. It's all about that's living on planet Earth together and expressing our feelings about it in these paintings. And it
could be any type of art. It could go seeing but a real piece of art.
Yeah, somebody handcrafted. This is created by hand.
I think I even used the example yesterday of like, if you really dig motorcycles, go look at some cool design of motorcycles. Just the whole concept of art and how it can like mellow you out for a little bit. You know what I mean? That's, as a professional, can you talk about that at all?
It's because I think it just because of the focus, it just gets you focused on very essential things about being here. So
it's like you go almost, in other words, well, we talked about this yesterday. You start and you're like, I just watched the news, I'm going to go paint. And then, 10 minutes later, you're still thinking a little bit about it. But at the end of those 2 hours, you're not thinking about it anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's the thing. The world is out there, and there's a lot of bad stuff in the world. There's a lot of great stuff, and you're not going to change it this week. You just got to be positive. I mean, the whole be the change, but be the art, be the beauty, be the passion about what
stuff.
You're doing.
Well, I'm not trying to throw my sales hat on right now, although I will. Like, here's the thing.
You can buy a piece of art.
Well, but you can. And this is what I'm going to
true.
say is that energy is transferable, Tim.
Yes, 100%. You're right.
I have a lot of, I don't even brag now. I have a lot of really fantastic artwork at my house. If you want to come over, I'll show it to you. I've certainly known a lot of great artists. And those pieces are my touchstone in the same way that you were saying that you may have that plein air sketch that you're going for.
Yeah.
I have scenes that I look at and some of my favorite paintings are hung in my bedroom, which seems sort of crazy because mostly I'm the only one who's ever really looking at them. But it's because when I look at them, they evoke certain emotions in me. They ground me in certain ways. And I can look at them and remember that place or that time or that person. And it is why it is I mean, art is an investment, not just because maybe it will appreciate in value, but it is an investment in your peace of mind too. When you're surrounded by things of beauty and joy and comfort, you actually do continue. That reflects in you every day.
Yeah, and I just think that something small like that is just, and I thought about it going down to the collector's party. You know, just like how great of a vibe it was, and such a pleasant sort of thing that like, regardless of who you were gonna be like, this is really nice.
Yeah.
I don't care I don't care what you like. You know what I mean?
I will say I don't have a water view from my house, but I do have a Stephen Griffin painting that I look at every morning, and I say, look at that water view.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like make believe.
Well, yeah, I guess, and that's part of what it's all about. I haven't figured out how to phrase that question right, but thanks for like.
You know, it matters what we look at. It matters what's in our field of view, both in our consciousness in terms of watching the news. I advise informing yourself and then turning it off. But, you know, artwork, it matters, you know, and having it on your walls is a great way to kind of keep that close. If you're going to have something on your wall, you may as well have something meaningful, something heartfelt.
Or even go paint yourself, or listen to a concerto. You know what I mean? Not paint yourself.
I was like, oh, that sounds like a terrible idea.
Take it up. Any type of like, I just think we're overlooking the power of like that this event kind of highlights. Is I guess really what I'm saying.
It's something we can all.
I feel like we've gotten to share a stage with greatness today, Tim.
Yes, I wanted to ask that too. She was. How did it feel to have Fine Art Connoisseur magazine call you one of today's masters?
It was humbling. It was really an honor.
Really big honor. Yeah, it's a big quote.
I view that word with a very. I didn't think I was deserving of that word. To me, for one, I'm still alive. and you know, I just it was an honor. I'll just graciously say it was an honor. But
well, maybe you can work up to living legend.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that the higher level?
I think if she's still alive, that's her qualification.
Yeah,
You'd have to be living legend.
Yeah.
To me, she already is.
Yeah, it was a great conversation and some very. You know, we always have different people. Everybody's gotten their certain part of life a certain way. And your story was great, and so really thank you for sharing your time with us, and thanks for doing the demo yesterday.
Yeah, happy to do it.
Lisa, thank you for being a Plein Air Easton alumni and remembering that you were here. Thank you for my favorite quick draw painting of all time. That memory again sticks with me clearly. It's been so delightful to talk to you this afternoon.
Oh, thanks.
I'm going to have to jump out of here and rush to Tillman, where we have an exhibition tonight. So if you are watching this live on Facebook, I would say
if you're close,
you should go to Tillman, the Tillman Island Inn tonight.
Happy hour starts at 4:00.
Absolutely,
the paintings get turned in from 5 to 7. There's a judging at 7 o'clock.
Yep.
It's a great time. It's a great spirit. Go by land, go by boat.
And Lisa, Tillman is another fantastic place to go immerse yourself. I know you know that.
I do know that.
Lisa, do you have any final words? Any final words?
No, this is a great event. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. This event has always you referenced your orientation for this event, and your orientations are legendary in terms of making artists feel valued, and this event really does that. So thank you.
Awesome.
We're at the Plein Air Easton headquarters in the Waterfowl Building on 40 South Harrison Street in Easton, Maryland. We'll be here until July 21st. There are plenty of events. There's an insider's guide online you can look at. It's got everything that festival related, and it's very easy to use. It's just a computer flip book.
I think there's a fantastic demo on this stage this afternoon.
Demo here. There's demos all week. We're at pleinaiereaston.com as well. Thank you all for listening.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
The Plein Air Easton Podcast. Thank you.
Hold it. Keep with